Welcome, everybody. This is Edgardo, Balentine.
And this is Scott DiGregorio, and welcome to the Real Estate of Tomorrow podcast, where we're going to discuss the rapidly changing landscape of the real estate industry.
And the steps that you need to take today in order to survive tomorrow.
Look, I'm going to give you the perspective of a 25-year veteran, somebody who has been there and done that.
With Jesus line for all part, okay?
That's for you, man.
Look, I'm going to give you a fresh perspective from somebody that's applying those steps today.
So that basically means you're young and you don't know shit.
All right. Let's get this started.
All right, welcome everybody to the Real Estate of Tomorrow podcast. This is Edgardo, Balentine.
And Scott DiGregorio.
All right, bro, come on, take it easy. All right, so look, I'm very excited about this topic, and it's a topic that there's a lot of taglines. There's a lot of things that you hear, and you hear enough times that you just repeat it, and a lot of times we don't even know what the fuck we're talking about. And one of them is the market is crazy, all of these things, and now the new one is the market is slowing down.
Yes.
Right?
Actually, the crash is beginning. Is a very trendy topic right now.
Sell everything. Everything's on fire. Fuck everything. So I want to start with that premise. The premise is the market is slowing down. And let me just start there. Scott, is the market slowing down? Why do we think the market's slowing down? I have a hard time talking about the market slowing down if my buyers, for example, are still having trouble getting their offer accepted. Like, where are we getting this from?
So look, I think there's two pieces of this that we have to deal with. And before I get into them, I think we got to understand that there's two sources of data, or two ways of looking at things. One of them is data driven, right? Like, here's the statistics, blah, blah, blah. Here's the problem with that, or here's the piece of that. Data is historical in nature, right? It's like, when are we in a recession? Well, a recession is 2 consecutive negative quarters of GDP growth, meaning that you're 6 months into a recession before it's officially called a recession. Housing data comes out. It's a lagging indicator. So that's one way of looking at it. The other way is anecdotal, which is honestly talking to people. Hey, homes aren't sitting on the market for 3 days anymore. They're up to 10. We don't have 15 offers on a property. We have 3. Price reductions in the MLS are up considerably. And I
can't put the house at 50% of what the house should have sold yesterday.
Exactly. So what I'm seeing now is anecdotal data starting to come in. I was talking to clients earlier today. They said, hey, we've been looking in this one particular neighborhood. They've been averaging 2 to 3 houses for sale. I looked this morning, there were 21. That's the type of data that's starting to come out to, quote unquote, show that the market is softening.
Okay, so there's a lot of anecdotal data. I agree with you. There's less offers per house, and we see the houses are sitting in the market a little bit. There's a couple things that I want to make sure that we understand with that. Now, does the houses or the market softening the same thing as the market going down?
No.
So, we always give the example of a car, right? Like, if the car is going at 100 miles an hour and now it's going at 80 miles an hour, it doesn't mean that the car is not moving forward anymore. It just means that it's going slower than it was before.
Absolutely. It's still going fast, just not as fast. And by the way, we should all be cheering that the housing market isn't going as fast, because we need to slow this thing down a little bit, or bad things could happen. I don't see that happening, but it's possible.
Well, there's a certain rate of growth that's unsustainable.
Of course.
In everything, right? So this thing going, slowing down a little bit opens up the opportunity for this to be more sustainable, and it opens up the opportunity to be able to have more people jump into this market, which is really what we wanted to talk about today, which is what opportunities, if we agree that the market is not slowing down, it's not going as fast as it was before, it's not continuing to move faster and faster and faster, if it's whether it's slowing down or it's staying at the same pace as it is now, then what opportunities that's open to our clients?
Well, look, I think I think before we get into that, I want to address a few of the headlines that I'm starting to see a lot because they're misleading. Specifically, I'll start off with price reductions. Okay, what's been happening in the markets for a while now, for a couple of years, is the last person, the highest sale in my neighborhood was 500. Cool, I'm going to sell for 525. Oh, it was 525. I'm going to sell for 575, 625, etc. Right? And there's this never-ending escalation. And what's happening now is if the last highest price home in the neighborhood was 650, I list mine at 700. It shouldn't be listed at 700. Now, granted, over the last 2 years, they would have gotten it. But maybe now in this market, they're not. So,
but wait, would they have gotten it? Or they wouldn't have. Proportionally, they would have, but they wouldn't have gotten 700. They would have gotten maybe the 660 or the 650, right?
But you were able to continually go above the previous highest sale price in the neighborhood. It was just almost like a given, right? How much higher we could have a conversation about, but higher. Maybe now that's not the case. Maybe if the highest price home in the neighborhood that sold was 675, maybe you need to list your house for 675 or 680 or something like that.
Right.
So what's happening is they're taking that 680 home, listing it for 7.25. It's sitting for a while. They're bringing it down to 700, and the media is latching on to this as house prices are dropping. No, the house was priced too high, and they're bringing it back down to market value. That's not the start of a housing crash. That is an incorrect list price being adjusted down to the right number.
Okay, so see, I think that's super important because the market slowing down means the pace of growth has slowed, right? It doesn't mean that it's regressing. It doesn't mean that it's going down. It just means that it's not continuing to go up as fast as it was going up. Again, that allows people to catch up to this market.
Of course.
Because this has been the biggest problem we've had, right? It's not so much, we had an episode on affordability. It's not that houses are unaffordable today. It's just that the pace has been so fast that it feels like it's just impossible to buy a house.
Absolutely.
Because of how much easier it was a year ago.
Absolutely. So what does this mean? This means that our average American has a better chance of getting an offer accepted. Our finance buyers have a better chance of getting their offers accepted. Those wanting to buy a home contingent on the sale of their home has a better chance of getting their offers accepted. This is really good. And if you look at home appreciation rates that have gone on in the 10, 12, sometimes 15, 18% range in different parts of the country. If that slows down to 6% or 8% appreciation, here's what everybody has to realize. The national average appreciation rate in America is just north of 4%. A 6 or 8% appreciation rate is blisteringly high. It's just not as stratospherically high. Those are a bunch of big words. Stratospherically high as it's been over the last couple of years, but it's still a very, very, very fast pace.
Very, very, very fast.
Triple varies.
After all those big words, was a bit of a disappointment. No, I agree with you, especially when you look at a house as an investment, which, sometimes we forget that at the end of the day, we're buying an asset.
Absolutely.
Many, many times. And, if you have a house that the overall price can appreciate at a 5%, at a 6%, but your investment to purchase that house was 10% of the price. So let's say, if you find the only house for $100,000 and you put 10% down, $10,000, and the house appreciated 6%, now your return on investment, those $10,000 appreciated at 60%, because you made $6,000 on your $10,000 investment. So I think that's a big thing that we need to focus on. While every headline and everything is, oh my God, this is the beginning of the crash, we need to just, again, step back and look at the opportunity that this allows us to take advantage of, which is, get into a house now with a low down payment, for example, or take advantage of down payment assistance programs that for the past 2 years have been basically impossible to take advantage of because no seller would accept it.
Absolutely. And that's, I think that's the critical thing. And by the way, with change, whatever the change is, comes opportunity. And I think that there are a lot of opportunities right now, whether you want to focus on listings or buyers, there's a lot of opportunities for those that I think we should dive into.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Let's talk about that for a second. Even before jumping into the actual opportunity that the change gives us, just the fact that there is now an environment of change gives us the opportunity to jump in and become advisors.
Absolutely.
Right?
Talking points, baby.
For a long time, there has been givens. There has been a number of assumptions in the housing market. For example, even on the seller side, the house sells itself. I can put a house for whatever price I want, and the house is going to sell itself. So why the hell do I need a realtor? This type of headlines and this type of fears and volatility allows you to now explain why in a changing market, in a market that's slowing down, why you as the listing agent are very valuable.
Absolutely. Look, my brother's a financial advisor. Shout out to Chris.
Shout out to Chris.
And, Chris.
How's it going in this market, Chris?
But look, Chris always said that when the market's just going up, it's the hardest time to raise assets and get new clients. And I think that's the case. And that's actually a point that didn't cross my mind going into this set. And I think it's a valid point. And so the need for professional guidance is elevated right now to compare it to where it was. I think that we also need to look at our database, right?
Well, what opportunities does that give us, right? The need for professional guidance allows you to now address a seller with that mentality, with saying, look, I'm sure you've seen, but the market is slowing down. These are the strategies that I can give you on a market that is slowing down to help your house sell. So, even before we hit the database, your script, what you're telling your clients, what you're telling the people that you're cold calling, needs to address these things, because this is what a lot of people are thinking about, right? I had, for example, a client that was interested in buying a house, and when he came to me, he's like, well, I'm just going to put my house for sale, and that's going to sell by itself. Well, his house has been in the market for a month and a half, and now he's asking me for a realtor referral. So it gives me the opportunity now, because now it gives the realtor, the opportunity to now, if any realtor calls him, he's now more open to talk to that person than he was a month ago, simply because now he's feeling that the market is slowing down. So just right there, the speech and your script, if it changes to address the change, it gives you an opportunity to just open doors that were previously closed.
Absolutely. And look, I think an overall evaluation of your game plan is in order here. Okay, you should not be saying the same. As crazy as this sounds, you should not be saying and doing the same things today as you were 60 days ago.
Even if they were successful 60 days ago.
Absolutely, because we are in a different market or we're rapidly moving into a different market. Again, not a catastrophically bad market, just simply a different market.
Look, I would even throw a third one there. Even if we're not in a different market, if there's the feeling, the sensation that we are in a different market, you want to address that.
Absolutely. So we got to change our scripting. We got to change our strategies. You got to make sure that when you're talking to buyers or sellers, you're having the conversation in the proper context. And the proper context is June isn't what March was.
Deep.
It's deep.
That was very deep. June is not March. Ladies and gentlemen, that can be the opening to your call. Mr. Seller, June is not March.
We should actually name the podcast episode "June is not March." So,
database.
All right. So the first thing is reevaluate your entire game plan, reevaluate your scripting, reevaluate the advice you're giving to people. Okay. The next thing, and we'll expand upon that in more detail as we go. But the next thing we need to do is think about all of the people who gave up. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about the listing appointments where somebody said, I want to sell and buy, but I'm screwed. If I sell first, I'm homeless, and I have no chance of getting an offer accepted contingent on the sale of my house, so I'm just going to wait. The people that have said, the buyers that have said, look, I can't deal with this market. It's too hot. I'm sick of bidding wars. I'm out. The buyers who said, look, I put in 15 offers. None of them got accepted. I'm just done with it. All of the buyers and sellers who said, I'm terrified of things, I'm just going to wait.
The buyer that said, I'm going to wait until I save a little bit more money. There's no way I can get an offer accepted right now. So all of these people now, out of a sudden, are a great resource of people or amount of people for you to go back to and talk to them about, hey, we talked when the market was A, now that the market is B, this creates other opportunities for you to get your offer accepted. And these people will be more receptive today because ultimately their intention, their goal is to sell or to buy.
And by the way, you should have all of those people in your CRM. You do have them in your, well, if you don't, shame on you. Go back and watch our episode where we talked about CRMs. This is a perfect example of where if you're running a CRM properly, like we are, this thing happens, a couple of mouse clicks, you run a report, and you have a list of 3, 5, 10, 50 people, whatever the number is, that you could call and have these meaningful conversations with in no time at all.
Yeah, you can even send them a mass email. They're already cataloged and everything. It's the best way to do it. I mean, we as lenders do it all the time when the rates go down. So, I mean, this is your version as realtors of the rates going down.
Absolutely. So, so you want to go through all of the people who gave up, and let's talk about some strategies we have. And I want to start on the listing side of things. Okay. I think that doing something like a seller buy down strategy is really a good idea. So let me, a little hard to explain verbally here, but let me take you through it real quick. Instead of a seller dropping the price on their home, what the seller could do is offer, hey, I will pay 2% of the sales price back towards the buyer to help permanently buy down their interest rate. Okay, so the seller could pay 2% towards discount points. It could lower that interest rate anywhere between 0.5% to 1% for 30 years for the buyer, which will save them a ton more money than maybe a 5 or 10% price reduction. So if you're looking at somebody, I was speaking earlier this week, I did an example of somebody doing on a $400,000 house a $20,000 price cut versus paying $8,000 towards points. The buyer ends up with an even lower payment. The seller ends up with more money in their pockets. Real estate agent ends up with a slightly higher commission rate, and everybody wins. Again, outside the box, but that is a good strategy to have your buyers or your seller's home stand out in this market. Now that he's not one of 3 listings, he might be one of 10 or one of 30.
All right, so implementation time, right? What's the right way to do that? The right way to do that is to put a specific example in the MLS, in the, what is it called?
Confidential comments.
The confidential comments, where you can ask your lender or or us to actually set up those numbers where you can actually see what the payment would be and what the difference would be between a reduction in price and a reduction in the buy down. Because what this ultimately does is not only makes the house that you're selling more attractive for a buyer, but it opens up the pool of buyers that you have, because more people will qualify because it would have a lower payment.
Absolutely.
And at the end of the day, that is a great strategy. And think about this. For you to do this from a listing presentation standpoint, to go into a listing presentation and explain to them that you're going to establish these type of strategies that are specifically for markets that are slowing down, just immediately sets you apart. Whether you end up getting a deal where you do the buy down or not, just from a listing presentation standpoint, it's a different conversation than just, I'm going to do the marketing better. How are you going to do the marketing better? Well, I'm going to do marketing better because this house, even though it's priced at the same price that the other houses around here, it's going to have a lower monthly payment for most buyers.
Absolutely. I think another opportunity that is enormous right now in this market, and I realize some parts of this country, this might work better than others, but I think open houses are a phenomenal opportunity right now.
What's an open house?
You just open up the doors and leave and hope things are there when you come back. But I think holding open houses are a wonderful way of marketing properties and frankly generating a lot of buyer.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity to get a lot of buyers activity, because if you're a buyer, if you're interested in buying, well, you're at open houses during the weekend.
Absolutely.
That's where the buyers are. That's where the houses are.
Yeah, and for the last couple of years, the homes were selling so damn quick. You didn't even have time to do an open house unless you did that whole strategy. I'm going to put the house on the market for a week. I'm not going to respond to any offers until after the open house and whatever. Which fine, it worked. But I think in this market, I think holding open houses is a wonderful way to grow your business. Wonderful way to market properties. Maybe we're back to the stage of things where we should be talking about you guys staging properties for your sellers. Look, you might have to just dust off some of the tricks that you might have used in 2017, 18, and 19 that you haven't had to use since then.
And I think as a side note, and that's not necessarily what the episode is about, but look, for the past 2 years, the market has been on autopilot in many, many ways, right? From the realtor side to the lending side, where, houses are basically selling themselves, right? Yeah. Okay, look, let me tell you something. When the complaint that a listing agent has is, we get too many offers, and oh my God, I can't keep up with all the contracts that I'm getting on the listing side. Sure, that's tough because you need to advise your client, but it's a different kind of tough. It's not the tough that I can't sell this house, right? So, if we actually see the market shifting, and if that's the messaging that's out there, well, maybe going back to actually trying to give some value to people, actually doing open houses, doing these cold calls, now it's the time to do it because people will be more receptive to all of these things.
Yeah, and look, I think it bears mentioning that, although the market's, to a consumer, the market's hot, realtors and lenders are just raking in the money and it's easy money. Look, we know that's just not true. Getting listings over the last couple of years has been hard as hell because there's a ton of competition for them. Buyers, you are working tirelessly. You're writing sometimes 5, 10, 15 offers to get one accepted. There was a lot of really hard work that's been done. And a lot of realtors that I know are really struggling. And this shift in the market might actually make things a little bit easier for them in some ways. Like what you're saying is true. Yes, once you get a listing, you're beating the buyers off with a stick. But how many agents are competing for those couple of listings that are out there? What is the ratio of listings to licensed real estate professionals? It's a scary number. So that increasing a little bit might actually make things a little bit easier for the average real estate professional walking around. And that's a good thing as well.
Well, and it allows you to actually differentiate yourself.
Oh man, did you butcher that?
How do you say that?
You got to take that one out of your vocab. Differentiate.
There we nailed it. It allows you to do that to yourself. Because look, my point here is that for the longest time, it's really hard. I agree. It's hard for a listing agent. It has for a buyer agent, but it's really hard to establish why you're different. And when the market becomes a little bit more difficult, then all those strategies actually start mattering more.
Absolutely. And the conversations enable you to stand out that much more because when anybody can sell a house for any amount, then it's just, what are you going to list it for? What are you going to charge me? And everything is commoditized. And now all of a sudden, strategy comes into place, database comes into place. For you to walk into a listing agent or a listing appointment rather as a listing agent and say, hey, I have this database of buyers or I have this network or whatever, all of a sudden now you could really stand out amongst your competitors.
Or this is how your payment is going to be a discount on this house. So
absolutely.
Okay, why don't we talk about Revive?
All right. So one of the things that's out there is, we partner with a company called Revive. There's another company out there called Ribbon that's popular. We personally feel Revive has a slightly better platform. But another thing that I think is very pertinent to do in this market is to work with some of these tech companies that are out there. So the way Revive basically works is if somebody wants to sell their house and buy another, Revive, you go out, the buyer goes out with their real estate agent, they pick out a house that they want to buy. Revive actually buys that house cash and then sells and then basically does a lease option, giving your seller/buyer up to 4 months to sell their departing residence. Revive charges a fee of 2.75%. In a market that's going up even at 8% a year, you have 4 months, that math kind of washes itself out. And it's a wonderful opportunity for people because although it's easier today to get an offer accepted contingent on the sale of their existing home, it's still really hard to do. And Revive and some of these other companies out there, by the way, there's lots of them. I know Coldwell Banker has relationships with some of them. There's quite a few out there.
Revive is cooler because they get a discount when they use us as a lender.
This is true.
Let's just stick with Revive.
This is true. But
But my point is, like, you know, those type of conversations when you go into a listing presentation are going to be extremely valuable as the market shift. The other thing that Revive does too is it not only helps you to buy this property, but it also, if you have a property that maybe needs some work, right? If you need to do some renovations on your house, well, they also finance those renovations at no cost to you. And they allow you to put your house and make it, you know, sell for a better price and stand out amongst the competition. And if the market's slowing down, you're going to have a little bit more competition when you're selling this house than you had in the past month or so. So taking advantage of opportunities like that will help your clients. And for you to have the knowledge about these opportunities will definitely help you be different when it comes to doing this list. I tried, man. I really tried. I thought about it. Anyways, it will help you be different when it comes to doing these listing presentations. And look, a lot of times when it comes to these things, it's just having the information, presenting it to the client, even if ultimately this is not the path that the client takes to sell the house or to buy the house. Just presenting that information, it's what makes them pick you as opposed to the next person.
Boom. All right, we did it.
Yeah, be different, right? We heard from Rene Rodriguez, which we're going to have in the podcast, right?
Yeah.
Am I allowed to say that?
I think we can, man. We have. So for those of you that don't know, Rene Rodriguez is one of the absolute top A-list speakers in the country. He has an event that he does called Amplify. It is amazing. And actually, shout out to his podcast.
Yeah.
Amplify. The neuroside of leadership and influence. I've been listening to it. Phenomenal stuff. We can leave a link to it in the show notes.
Yeah.
And he is going to be on, I think, in the month of July. We have a recording session coming up with him soon. He actually did a private event for those of us in our company for real estate agents, and it was mind-blowing. So do yourself a favor. Spend some time on YouTube checking out Rene Rodriguez. Check out his podcast. Again, we'll have links in the show notes, and stay tuned for the announcement of the release of that episode, because it is going to be crazy.
Yeah. Well, he says, don't just say be better. I'm gonna do better. I do things better. He says be different.
Yes.
And that's the whole point. Just be different.
Absolutely. Folks, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to us today. Question we always like to ask you at the end: what are you doing today to be successful in the real estate of tomorrow? Folks, I'm Scott DiGregorio. This is Edgardo Balentine. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Peace.
Well, thank you guys for listening. And now it's your turn to implement everything you learned today.
Look, you have a question, you have a topic for a future episode?
Share with us.
Yeah, tell us what you're doing. What are you doing today so you could be successful tomorrow? Send us an email at success@realestateoftomorrow.com.
And don't forget to leave us a review, an honest review.
Screw an honest review. Leave us a 5-star review. And for every 5-star review we get, we're going to send you a badass real estate meme t-shirt.
Those shirts are hilarious.
See ya.